Welcome guys, this is Sayyad. In this course we will have a look at how to build WPF applications using MVVM as a design pattern. So MVVM or model view model is a design pattern which is introduced in the year 2005 by this person called as John Gossman. This design pattern is specifically introduced for working with the advanced technologies like WPF and Silverlight because it takes advantages of the features that are present in WPF and Silverlight, like data binding features, command binding features. Using those features we can develop an MVVM application. And the advantage of using MVVM as a design pattern over other design patterns is you are going to get a separation of concerns. That is, for a single application you can develop multiple different components simultaneously, as well as you will also be able to do unit testing of those components. Let's say you are developing the user interface, you will be able to test your user interface without connecting it with some logic. Similarly, when you are writing some logic, you will be able to test that logic by writing a unit test without connecting it with a user interface. That is the advantage that you will get with MVVM as a design pattern. So the different advantages that you are going to get with MVVM. So the first advantage is separation of concern, that is your data will not be dependent on the presentation. In the same way, the presentation or your view will not be dependent on data, they will be separate. In the same way, when it comes to connecting this view with the data, again you can do that by using something called as view models, which will contain the state for your view as well as the behavior for your view, like what operations the view can do, that will be present inside view model. So basically in an MVVM application you will have different components. Each component will have a separate responsibility. Data will only be taking data from some data sources or saving some data into the data sources. In the same way, view is only responsible for displaying the data or capturing the data from the user. Now view will not be concerned about how the data is saved, what logic runs behind that particular data. All that will not be the concern of a view. So this way you will be able to do unit testing, that is you can test your data models separately, you can test your views separately, as well as you can test the connectors which connects your views with the data models separately. And it also allows us designer developer workflow, that is a designer can separately work on the views without being concerned about what logic runs behind. In the same way, a developer can write the application logic without being concerned about how to display that data or how to retrieve the data from the user. So MVVM provides you with designer and developer workflow where both these people can work simultaneously. And it also takes advantages of the features that comes with WPF as a framework, like the data binding feature wherein you can set different data binding modes like one way, two way and all. It also supports feature of WPF, that is command binding, where you can associate some commands with the UI controls like buttons and menus. So at a high level, when it comes to MVVM, there will be three different components. One is view, second one is model, and the third one is view model. Models are nothing but your business objects or your entity classes. They will not have any references to any views. A model will not be concerned about how the data is represented to the user or how the data is taken from the user. A model's responsibility is only to work with that data. It does not concern itself with where is the data coming from and where does the data goes. That is not the responsibility of model. Similarly, views will be containing your user interfaces and the presentations, that is, they will display some information to the user or they will capture some information from the user with the help of certain text boxes, leaf, and other controls. Again, view will not be concerned about whatever data that is being given by the user, how is it saved, which model is going to save that data. That will not be the concerns of a view. Now, in order to connect these models and views, we will have the third component of MVVM called as view models. So view model basically contains the references of the view, it contains the references of the models, and it is responsible for connecting the views with the models. It contains all the behaviors that a view is supposed to do. For example, if I have a button in a view, then the code that needs to be executed when that button is clicked, that will be the part of view model. So when it comes to MVVM as a framework, when it in WPF and Silverlight, at that time mostly the code behind a file, that is .xaml.cs file, will have very less or no code at all. Now in the next lesson we will see the project structure for MVVM, and later on we will also see how to implement MVVM with a simple application.